Hey guys, so I have to ask you, do you really own your stuff? I asked this question because Dave Ramsey on many of his videos has expressed the idea that he's really just the steward of his belongings, whether that be his material possessions or his finances. And frankly, this is one of the reasons when I first found Dave Ramsey that he used to bug me. He used to say that, and also, I'm better than I deserve. I've come over time to understand what he really means by both of these statements, but in all fairness, I have to admit that when I first heard those comments, I was super put off by them. Why, would you ask? Why would I be so put off by that? Well, firstly, I felt that in regards to the better than I deserve comment, that you deserve to be treated well, you deserve to have good things in life, and I understand now that there is a full Christian mentality around what we truly deserve, so I will leave that one alone as I don't want to dig into that. But in terms of being a steward of your things, I can honestly say that I also understand that now, but I really resisted it for a very long time. And the reason I did is because isn't the purpose of us going through debt repayment to be the genuine owner of our belongings? Isn't that the goal? So I can honestly say for myself, I've always been a bit, stodgy about sharing my things. Even as a kid, I was always never wanting to share my toys. I really wanted people to just leave my stuff alone. I felt I took good care of it, and I didn't want them jacking up my things, to be perfectly honest with you. And in maybe a more funny twist, I felt that way about my dinners too. You know, I would go out to dinner with friends and people would be like, oh, can I have a taste of that? Like, no, get your own stinking plate. Like, focus on your stuff, because this is all my dinner right here. And I truly felt that way for a long time. So I can honestly say that I clearly have possessive tendencies. I do know this about myself, and I have actively worked on it. That being said, I had a pretty significant awakening when my dad passed away. When my mom passed away, we worked through her items and we tried to stage her estate as nicely as possible, kind of like tidy up the loose ends and go through the belongings that my dad felt should come to my sister and I. We did all of that. That being said, it was minuscule compared to the work and the time and the activity that went through getting my dad's estate in order and really putting everything in its rightful place, selling belongings that were of no value to my sister and I. We donated a tremendous amount of stuff, and it really helped me understand that this is what Dave Ramsey is talking about. Even when you outright own something, you don't really ever own it, because at some point you're going to pass on, and then what are you going to do with all that stuff? Where is it going to go? So what we ultimately figured out, and what I personally figured out, is that we really are only ever the steward of our things. At some point, those things are going to be passed on. This really is why I believe in buying less and buying better. You really can't take it with you. So why not acquire belongings that are timeless, that are beautiful, that will retain value, and hopefully are functional as well? And then you can pass those on to your children. And even if they don't want to hang on to them, they can be shared with someone else. The item in particular that comes to mind for me when I think about this with my dad's passing is we had a beautiful shrunk. If I can find a picture of it, I will load it. Otherwise, I'll find a generic shrunk online. A shrunk is like a cabinet system that is very common in Germany. It's solid wood, and frankly, they're beautiful pieces of equipment. We had this shrunk. I remember it being in my household all through growing up. And when it was my dad, after my dad had passed away, it wasn't a piece of furniture. I mean, it was huge. It was a wall unit. It took up a tremendous amount of space, and there was no place in my home for me to put it. And there was no place in my sister's home for her to put it. So in the end, we ended up giving it away. And I'm really happy that we found whom we gave it to. So what we ended up doing, because it was such a meaningful belonging to our household, we actually researched in the hometown that we're from whether or not there was a German restaurant. And then we contacted the German restaurant and said, listen, this is an authentic German shrunk. This might be something that's suitable for your restaurant. And the woman who ran the restaurant, her husband and her, he was an American, but she was German. She was like, I would love to see this shrunk. I actually, when I moved to America, had to give up a shrunk that I personally owned for a very long time. And I've always regretted that I had to do that. So she came and saw the shrunk and she was beyond excited. She ended up helping us dismantle it, clean it, and then she moved it to her home. She didn't even put it in the restaurant. She moved it to her home. So this is kind of a funny side story, but this shrunk, I mean, when you have something in your home your whole life growing up, you do care where it ends up. We spoke to the family that took it and we said, you know, if it's not too weird, you know, feel free to send us a pic on wherever its final position is. And straight up, they sent me a text message maybe a month later when they had moved their own furniture around and were able to set it up properly in their home. So I do know that it went to a great home, but still, this idea that we don't actually own our things is stuck in me. The purpose for today's message is really to imprint on you the idea of stewardship and to talk to you about what it took for it to finally sink in with me, and for us to collectively have awareness that we should take great care of our belongings and know that this financial journey is really all about becoming debt-free so that those things that you've acquired that you care a lot about will stay with you. Financial independence isn't about acquiring things. It's also about having a different way of life. And when you do acquire things, make sure that those are things that bring you peace, that bring you joy, that serve a purpose in your life. It's a philosophical idea that I think is really prudent to have some awareness on and to see how it applies to your life. So tell me what you think, guys. Do you believe that you outright own your things? When Dave Ramsey says he's the steward of his money, did it bother you? Does it bother you the way that it bothered me? Do you believe that your stuff is your stuff and your stuff alone, and you can do with it what you want? Or do you think that perhaps it's your responsibility to be a steward of these things while they're in your care? Let me know in the comments. As always, I appreciate you watching. Have a fabulous day.